with Nigel Farage, who doesn't have a mane of hair, but he is doing very well in the polls. He's set to launch what the Sunday papers are calling his biggest attack yet on the Prime Minister, vowing to scrap the two-child benefit cap and fully restore winter fuel payments to all pensioners.
Yes, he's planning a major speech, and he's going to say he's going to take the fight, basically, to the Red Wall with new policies on welfare to win over traditional Labour voters.
Well, that's after rumours of infighting in Labour, backbenchers and campaigners piling the pressure on the Chancellor to row back on welfare cuts or risk election defeat.
Well, let's talk to former political advisor James Price, who's in the studio with us this morning. It's interesting to see that it's almost as though Keir Starmer has anticipated that Nigel Farage is going to make certain statements coming up, and he's trying to gain the advantage by sort of hinting that he's going to do the same thing first.
Yeah, absolutely right. I find this quite disappointing in some ways. There's a lot about the reform platform I find really compelling, and I like an awful lot of the sensible, common sense stuff that they're talking about. And then they start talking about the economy these days and about spending, and it doesn't seem that we're necessarily living in the same real world. You just mentioned about pensions and the fact that people are going to have to work a lot longer. That's because finances for many, many decades, probably since, the 1990s, have been mismanaged by the two main parties, and we've got more debt and deficit spending than ever before. And whilst the two-child benefits cap and winter fuel payments is not going to break the bank on its own, this idea that you can just say, well, I'll match Labour's mad spending commitments and I'll go beyond them, it's not going to stack up. It's not going to work economically. And it worries me slightly that they're just going to say whatever they want to now, whatever they need to get into power. And is that going to make reforms sound more and more like normal, regular politicians?
Oh, I'm intrigued, because I thought you'd support this, because a lot of people will be watching this and say, right, this is exactly what we need. It should never have been taken away in the first place, and we just need to cut other stuff to pay for it. I mean, Nigel has said he'll fund this. He said how he'll fund it, and a lot of it is down to scrapping migrant hotels.
Yeah, scrapping migrant hotels and I think foreign aid and DEI stuff. And look, no one watching GBNews is dumb enough to like DEI stuff. I certainly don't. But it's not huge billions and billions and billions of pounds. They're going to have to get real if they want to get real about the scale of the problem that the economy has. Go and look across the water. You've had all this fanfare about Doge and Elon Musk trying to cut budgets there. Over the weekend and the last week or two, he has got really depressed. You can see it through his millions of X posts or Twitters or whatever they're called now, of just realising just how much politicians hate the idea of having to cut any spending whatsoever. It's always nice to be generous when it's other people's money, but when you actually got the purse strings, it's very, very difficult to try and make these things add up. And my concern for this is that in trying to go and destroy the Labour Party, which is something I would support, that Farage is going to overpromise things. And if they do then get into power, they're going to find that they're not able to do the radical reforms that they're going to need to sort the country out.
Yes, but also, I mean, when Keir Starmer promises it, he is at least Prime Minister now and could do something straight away. Nigel Farage would be making a promise for a climate that we know nothing of in 4 years' time.
This is true. And this is why Kemi Badenoch gets a lot of stick as the leader of the Conservative Party for refusing to come out with too many concrete fiscal money proposals just yet, because, as you say, in 4 years' time, goodness knows how much more wrecked the country and the economy is going to be by the Labour Party. Things can get worse, which is why promising things now, I think, is concerning. And again, it's not huge amounts of money, but the biggest budgets, things like the NHS and the welfare bill itself, which is just enormous, like eye-watering sums we're talking about, that's where real savings can be made and should be made to fund things like defence, which is only going to get more important.
Yeah, but come on, Kemi Badenoch gets criticised a lot because she's not outlining any policies, and people say you can understand the argument of saying, well, I need to hold back. But people say we have no sense of direction. We have no sense of your priorities because you're not laying out any policies. Nigel Farage is laying out policies, and we're saying, oh, well, you don't know what the economy's going to be like. You don't know what you're going to face in 4 years. So you can't win whatever you do.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. I think what I would say to that is that with someone like Farage now, just trying to promise the world makes me fear that they're becoming more professionalised, as they keep talking about.
They need
but that makes them sound more like regular politicians.
But that's inevitable, isn't it?
Well, perhaps, but their point is they're supposed to be different. They're not supposed to be regular, horrible Westminster creatures like me and the rest of the politicians. But they're supposed to be. The problem, I suppose, is that trying to now appeal to people in the south and in the north in different ways and trying to promise everything to everybody. I fear that as time goes on, that's going to make it more difficult for them to have a proper coherent economic policy once they realise just how bad the books are inside the Treasury.
In today's Sun on Sunday, there's lots of beautiful pictures of Carrie Johnson and the new baby. But there is also a story that suggests that the Tories are absolutely fed up with Kemi Badenoch at the moment. She's just not doing enough. She's not grabbing the headlines. She doesn't seem to be doing... Oh, look, there's Boris. We're just showing a picture to those of you who are listening on the radio, showing a picture of Boris holding his 9th child.
9th, it'll be number 10 next.
Well, that's the thing. Is it number 10 next? Because they're saying that the Tories are fed up with Kemi and that they are rallying around Boris and trying to persuade him to come back in the fold. What do you think of that?
Well, it would be wrong of me to criticise Farage for promising the world and not being able to deliver and not level the same accusation at Boris. All that potential and the same exact problem happened. I think that if Boris were to try and come back, all that Nigel Farage and all that Keir Starmer would have to do would be to point to a chart on the wall where the immigration stats are high. Boris then comes in and it gets way higher again because they took their eye off the ball and this so-called Boris wave of recent arrivals of the lowest quality possible have come in and all kinds of other problems. I do not think that Boris Johnson is the answer, and I think that the kind of muted response that has happened to these rumours of him coming back has been a lot more depressed than he would have hoped for. And I'm very happy for him and his big family, but I think the Conservative family might need a new head. If it's going to be not Kemi Badenoch, I don't think it should be Boris Johnson.
Be exciting, though, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Great soap opera always,
It
right?
would be soap opera. James, thanks very much indeed. See you later on. Yeah, I think there's a sense that you can't just keep going backwards.
Oh, you would tell Winston Churchill that.
Well, I know,
he
but...
came back in, and Boris models himself on Winston Churchill.
Well, he does. I know. I just sort of think... James makes a very good point. It's all about record, and it would damage the Tories in the sense that, they're going to point... All the problems that we've got now, they're going to point at how they got worse under Boris.
Well, let us know what you think.
And it's no good saying it's all down to Brexit.
COVID.
Brexit, COVID. Oh, Lord. That's a
Two things
isn't it?
Easy to mix up.
But saying it's getting it all down to COVID isn't going to wash anymore, is it? People aren't going to swallow that anymore.
Yeah, but the Tories have got to find some excitement in there.
Yeah.
They've got to, they need to kick up the what's-it, don't they? But would Boris be able to stand up to Nigel Farage? Would it stop the Farage bandwagon? I don't know. It's interesting. There are lots of people I know watching at the moment who are very pro-Boris, but have accepted that he's out of the game for the moment. But if he were to come back in, would that dissuade you from voting for Nigel?
Oh, interesting. Let us know. gbnews.com/yoursay. Right, it's 6:41, time to go through the papers with former Labour councillor Kevin Craig and former political advisor Charlie Rowley. Morning, both of you.
Good morning.
Charlie, let's have a look at the Sunday Telegraph, should we? Nigel Farage is outflanking Keir Starmer on benefits.
Yes. Well, are you sitting comfortably?
Yes, thank you.
We'll begin. Because Nigel Farage has taken...
Don't tempt fate, Charlie.
He's taken this week, I think... by the horns to try and outdo Keir Starmer, that's supposed to be, I think, announcing, or there's rumblings within the Labour Party, that he's also going to announce this reversing of the two-child benefit cap, introduced by the Tories in 2017 to try and bring the benefits bill down. But Nigel Farage grabbing the headline of the Sunday newspapers to set out his stall on the back of, I think, those local elections, whereby on the doorstep there was huge consternation, I think, by Labour voters. Time and time again, I think the Labour Party have said that it was the winter fuel payments and child benefits that they wanted to see changes to. Nigel Farage has capitalised on that, and I think will be making a speech apparently sort of later this week to say that reform will get rid of it. That will appeal a lot to those red wall voters in particular to try and keep him in pole position in those polls.
But Starmer's going to announce the same thing.
He may well...
By the sound of it.
By the sounds of things. There seems to be within the column inches some maybe rifts with his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, and whether the Chancellor has signed it off altogether. Will it be a variation or not? We'll have to wait and see. But I think what's telling is that if they are going to do that, the fact that it seems at the minute that Nigel Farage has come out first, that he's still leading the news agenda. He's still leading on what the public want. If you do it after that, or if you seem to be having to be moved by Nigel Farage, then people will just look to him to say, well, he may as well be in charge.
He's good at playing politics.
Yeah, do you know, you were inside my mind just then, actually, Stephen. It's an example of how difficult being in government is for the Labour Party. It's an example of how, and that's his job, opportunistic and proactive Farage is. I mean, I thought that Reform were keen on cutting the benefits bill. And this doesn't seem to go in line with that. But if you remember last week at the Parliamentary Labour Party, Keir Starmer said to his MPs, you know, that in his opinion, the big fight at the next general election, the battle of ideas, is between the Labour Party and Reform. I think in terms of his ability to cut through to the media, Farage is leaving the leader of the Conservative Party in his wake at the minute. And I think you are right that Farage is good at politics, and Labour's job is to actually say, well, hang on, how is this consistent with the rest of your platform? How are we going to pay for all this? And a reminder that 1 year in, governing is really difficult. And as the election battering that the Labour Party got showed, it's hard to bring change quickly enough for people, and that's the challenge at the minute.
It's very hard being the government at the moment when there are things that need to be done. I mean, they've said it themselves, that aren't very Labourish.
Yeah, and you know,
and so, I mean, clearly there's disquiet bubbling under in his own front bench, Starmer's own front bench.
Yeah, I don't know about the front bench, Anne. You might have insight there that I haven't. But I was with Labour MPs in the last week, and some of them had signed this letter of 100. They've kept their name private, and they are very unhappy with aspects of reform to disability benefits. I think, having also stood for Labour twice at a parliamentary level, one of the reasons Labour got in was people trusted him on the economy, and one of the big things was to spend money wisely. And in that, I mean, how far have we moved in a year? The discussions that influenced the last general election are history.
Yeah.
You know, it's just wild.